This is not the Snow White of sweet songs and innocent beauty. No, the girl who escaped the queen's poisoned envy was not the victim the tales would have you believe. Snow White was far more dangerous, her heart blackened by ambition and hunger for power, her beauty nothing but a mask. When she fled into the woods, it was not pity that the 7 dwarfs felt when they found her. They were ensnared by her. Snow White's charm was a web of deceit, and the dwarfs, though small in stature, were mighty in their craft. But she saw in them not protectors, not friends, but slaves to serve her twisted desires. She enslaved them one by one, forcing them to tend to her every need, feeding her darkest urges. Each dwarf was bound to serve one of the 7 deadly sins, as she, Snow White, indulged in their excesses with the hunger of a queen who would never be satisfied. Cut to a darkened room inside the cottage. The dwarfs toil under the flickering light of a dying fire. Gluttony, grubby, with hands stained from endless cooking, is charged with gluttony. Day and night, he labors in the kitchen, stirring vast cauldrons of rich, decadent food, sweetmeats dripping with honey and blood-red wine. Snow White feasts on dishes fit for a tyrant queen, stuffing herself to excess while Grubby's hands blister and burn over the flames. No matter how much he prepares, it is never enough. She devours everything, laughing as he weeps from exhaustion. Sloth, weary and bent, Sleepy has become the embodiment of sloth. He is forced to keep her home spotless, though his eyelids droop with fatigue. Snow White demands that her sanctuary of darkness be without flaw. Sleepy is doomed to work, while his body screams for rest, mopping, scrubbing, wiping away any sign of dust or imperfection, while she watches from her throne, mocking him as he stumbles and falters. Greed, grumpy, forever angry, serves her greed. He mines the earth for jewels, gold, and riches, pulling forth treasures Snow White hoards in her chamber. She adorns herself in the finest gems, rubies, sapphires, and diamonds, but they mean nothing to her except as trophies of her control. Grumpy, bitter, and broken, claws at the earth day after day, knowing his labor will never be rewarded. Envy, bashful, shy, and timid, must constantly tend to Snow White's beauty. He polishes her mirrors and crafts potions to enhance her allure, knowing that she craves to be the fairest of them all. Yet, no matter how flawless she becomes, she seethes with envy at the thought that somewhere, someone might be more beautiful. Snow White's vanity has twisted her into a creature of jealousy, and Bashful's trembling hands are forever at work, maintaining her fragile illusion of perfection. Lust, dopey, once innocent, is now twisted by Snow White's lustful whims. He is the jester, the fool who dances and entertains her, feeding her insatiable desire for amusement. He crafts extravagant displays, all to draw a smile from her lips, a fleeting spark of pleasure in her cold eyes. Yet, it is never enough. Her lust is not for love, but for power, for dominance over all who cross her path. Pride. Doc, the wisest of them all, is bound to her pride. He is forced to counsel her, to whisper words of praise and reassurance into her ear. Snow White demands worship, not love, and Doc, against his will, feeds her delusions of grandeur. He hails her as the queen of the woods, the ruler of all she surveys, reinforcing her belief that she is untouchable, invincible. Wrath. Finally, Sneezy, once gentle, is now a vessel for her wrath. He bears the brunt of her fury, for in her dark heart, Snow White is never at peace. She lashes out at him when the world does not bend to her will, forcing him to endure her violent outbursts, her endless anger at the slightest imperfection or failure. Cut to the dark forest, where Snow White watches as the dwarfs work, their faces gaunt and drained of life. Snow White is no longer the victim in this tale. She has become the true villain, far more dangerous than the stepmother she once fled. Under her cruel reign, the 7 dwarves toil in eternal servitude, bound by chains unseen, each one a slave to her darkest desires, her hunger for power, and the deadly sins that consume her. The forest whispers her name in fear, for Snow White has become the queen of shadow and sin, a tyrant in a crown of twisted thorns. The wicked stepmother may be gone, but the kingdom is no safer, for Snow White's reign is one of darkness, and her thirst for control can never be sated.